Welcome back, everybody, to the show. I am your host, as always, Jay Villain, aka That Villain J. And tonight we have a very special treat for you. Yes, we do. Why? Well, we've got a little bit of theory crafting. We're back. We are back with the new set coming up, which is Lost Caverns of Ixalan. We've got a lot of... I'll be in early access, by the way, guys. We'll have early access. We'll have access to all the cards, thanks to Wizards of the Coast. When I tell you about that, November 9th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, for 24 hours, I will be doing it. Probably won't 24 hours straight, but I'll be doing it for that whole day, that evening, that night, next morning. We'll be looking at all the new stuff. So this is just a little preview. I had an idea here. I always like to theory craft one or two decks before we get started. And one of the ideas that I had that I saw was this lovely card here. We got to do something with the Mot Tyrant. The Mot Tyrant. There's a crazy fungus god here, an elder fungus that supports funguses and saprolings. So it's a really fun card. It's Golgari self-mill with like Lurk Horf abilities and all those different things. An interesting Golgari self-mill that's like, I think it's getting overlooked with all the dinos, the vamps, the pirates. I think this kind of build is going to be interesting with a lot of new stuff, using some of the new mechanics. So we're going to go over kind of what the theory craft is for this one. Of course, I need you to tenderly press that like button, gently press that subscribe button, because you don't want to miss all the new stuff coming out. All the new early access decks, we'll have it days and days before it comes out for everyone else. You'll be able to see how all this stuff works. And the other thing about liking and subscribing is, well, you won't be attacked by YouTube Werewolf, which is called the like and subscribe. So you'll save yourself in two things, a good thing and a bad thing right there. We also stream twitch.tv/thatvillainj for all live stream goodness. Love to have you there watching in person. We stream on YouTube as well. So if you want to hit the bell, you won't miss a YouTube stream. You can check out our Discord in case you want to talk to us or share your decks. And of course, we're on Untap right now. I am on Untap, and I'm also on AetherHub, so either of those websites. Unfortunately, AetherHub didn't have the new cards up yet, so I am on Untap looking at this. So I want to go through a little bit of an idea of what I have here. Of course, we're going to start with our removal package, as we often do. Cut down, tear asunder, a really nice Golgari Exile. You can kick it for get any kind of artifact or enchantment, or a permanent if you kick it for 4. So a very great removal. Go for the throat. Fantastic. That's fine. And Infernal Grasp over here. Great. We're going to have a lot of dinos and vampires and demons and all kind of stuff coming at us. We want to be able to survive. This deck is a little quick. It doesn't really have that high of an end. It kind of want to swarms out and hit hard. But you do want to be able to protect yourself with those removals. So one of the first ones we're going to do is look at this card art here with all the mushrooms and tentacles coming out of a skull. This is called the Deathcap Marionette, and it's just a common card, but it is a 1/1 Death Touch fungus. It comes down for 1 black and 1, and when it enters the battlefield, you may mill 2 cards. So you have the choice of milling. It's not force mill. Milling is going to be important because it is going to count towards descending. Anytime a permanent goes into a graveyard, you do get to descend a little bit further, which is a new mechanic. Death Bonnet Sprout is also a 1-drop green right here. That's a fungus. And again, we want funguses and saprolings. At the beginning of your upkeep, mill a card. Then if there are 3 or more cards in your library, transform to the Death Bonnet. Basically, the Death Bonnet is a 3/3. I think it's hard to find the, where is the suit? Hold shift for alt face. Yeah, okay. Boom. Death Bonnet Hulk. It's a fungus horror, and if you may exile a card from a graveyard, if you do, put a 1/1 counter on this guy. Very nice. They grow up so fast. So that's a very cool one too. So you have a 1-drop and a 2-drop in the early phases here that help you mill for that lovely self mill. We have Akawali, the Seething Tower. This is a fungus guy right here. Very looking Last of Us right here. Golgari colors in 1, green black 1, 3/3. Descend 4. As long as there are 4 or more graveyards, permanents in your graveyard, Akawali Seething Tower gets +2 and +2 trample. So if we have successfully milled out for 4 cards already, if for 4 permanents, this thing is going to hit the board as a 5/5 trample, and if we have 8 or more, it's going to be a 7/7 and it can't be blocked by more than one creature. It's like a reverse menace. You can't block it with more than one. So very deadly right there. Again, the self-mill is going to get us where we're going. Urberg Lurgherf, or Kerber. There it is. One green and one. What that does is a Lurgherf, which if you're familiar with Magic, you should know what that is. Basically, it's equal to the amount of creatures on your graveyard. Its power is equal to the number of creature cards in your graveyard, and its toughness is equal to that number plus one. So the more creatures you have in your graveyard, the more it is. And if you kick it with green when it comes out, you mill 3 times for each of the kick. You can also kick it with blue. We're not going to kick it with blue. We're only going to kick it with black. But it's a solid little workhorse there that adds the mill and gets more powerful the more you mill. Old Rutstein. I love this guy. This is my dude right here. 1 green, 1 black, and 1 solid Golgari, human peasant. When he enters the battlefield or at the beginning of your end step, mill a card. Okay? Whenever a land is milled, you get a treasure token. So you're basically getting a replacement for what you milled. If you mill a creature, you get a 1/1 green insect. And if you mill a non-creature, non-land, you get a blood token. And blood lets you draw cards. So he gives you kind of a replacement for whatever you mill. He's kind of a peddler. He's a peddling man. He has everything. So whatever that you swap out there, you're going to get something in replacement, which is really nice. It'll help you ramp. And again, it'll fill your graveyard with giving you something in return. I think 3 of them is good. Maybe you only want to go 2 because he's not really in the theme of Fungus or Saproling. But he does fit very well in the Golgari shell we have. Now, the star of the show, of course, is going to be the Mot Tyrant. This is really what the nuts and bolts of this whole thing is about. 1 black, 1 green, 1. Golgari, Elder Fungus, legendary creature. He is a trampler. His power and toughness are equal to the number of creatures you control that are fungus and or saprolings. So you're saying, well, you don't have that many. You've got maybe, 11 fungus or saprolings here. Well, there's something else he does. At the beginning of your end step, if you create X 1/1 black fungus creature tokens with this creature can't block, where X is the number of times you descended this turn. You descend each time a permanent is put in your graveyard from anywhere. So anytime a permanent is put in your graveyard from the top of your deck, or if something dies, the end step, he is going to create that many fungus tokens across the board. Okay? So if you've descended, if you've milled a whole bunch, if you've milled 3, 4, 5 times, or whatever you've done to hit the mill, that particular turn, using whatever tools are at your disposal, he's going to create that many saprolings. He's going to get that much more powerful, and you're going to have that wider of a board out there to push down on people. Blossoming Tortoise. Yes, he is the Tortoise. 2 green and 2. Whenever Tortoise enters the battlefield or attacks, mill 3 cards, then return a land card from your graveyard to the battlefield tab. So he does have that lovely resurrection ability that you're not just throwing away. Land. You are going to be putting some land back on. Activated land abilities of creatures you control cost 1 less to activate. That's fine. We don't really have any of those. It doesn't really matter too much for us, but it's still nice. And but he is just a solid mill, and he will help ramp as well. So 2 Tortoises. Then we're going to go to a forgotten card here, Namada Primeval Warden. I do think this one is going to have a come up because we have Saprolings, and we have card draw, and we have power that we can generate from this one. He's also a legendary creature. 1 green, 1 black, 2. He is going to be the Primeval Warden. He's a tree folk, but if a creature an opponent controls would die, you exile it. So take that resurrection deck. If they're gone, they're dead, they're exiled. Whenever something anybody else dies, they exile it, and you get a 1/1 Saproling creature token. Then, of course, you can sacrifice a Saproling to give it +2/+2 until the end of turn, or sacrifice 2 Saprolings to draw a card. So you have Saproling generation, you have Fungoid generation, you have all kind of generation. Then you say, all right, Jay, that's pretty good, but do you have one more trick up your sleeve to really drive it home that it would be a very, very powerful deck? Yeah, I do. It's called Lich Knight's Conquest, okay? All that milling and killing, we're going to try to finish off with the Lich Knights. Maybe you put 3 of them. Maybe you put 1 less Old Rutstein and 3 of these boys. Because you can sacrifice any number of artifacts, enchantments, or tokens. What are we generating with Namada? What are we generating with Mot Tyrant? generating a lot of tokens, right? So we'll have 3 or 4 tokens to sacrifice, maybe even more. A ton of tokens to sacrifice, return that many creatures from the graveyard to the battlefield. We could potentially, we hit 5, we've milled so much and have such a wide board of tokens, potentially we've set ourselves up with Micro Tyrant and Namada with such a thing that we can sacrifice so many tokens that we can res like 4 or 5 creatures all at once as a sorcery speed by sacrificing all of our little funguses and Saproling. Boom, we filled the board back up. Very, very cool high end right there with Lich Knight's Conquest. I think that this is a fun little idea that we're doing here. And again, I think it got overlooked with all the other abilities and other things coming out. Vampires are snazzy, dinos are snazzy. There's a little bit of a fungus self-mill thing going on in the background. Is it going to be super, super powerful? You'll have to wait and see. I'm going to build it. I'm going to try it on day 1. We're going to do our best to make this work as best we can. Of course, it could use some tweaking, and that's where I'd love to hear from you. I'd love you to leave comments. Let me know what you think. What do you like? What do you not like? What do you think I'm missing? Did I forget a card? Did I overlook a card? What am I missing here? How do we make this a deadly Golgari? Because you know I love the Golgari build, so... Deathcap Glade, Llanowar Waste, forests, and swamps. That's what we're doing. We can put some caverns in it. We can put some other stuff potentially. But this is kind of the framework build that we're talking about here. The most basic ideas that we're going to go into it to kind of get it to where it needs to go. Just to get our thoughts running, just to get our mind racing and the things that we want to do up and going. Like, what are the alternate builds that we do? What could we surprise people with? You know, building that big board, maybe defending, attacking, pinging, and then hitting Lich Knights for a big, big Resurrector, Reanimator, Golgari self-mill right there. So that's some cool stuff. I hope you like this one. Leave a comment. Tell me what you think. Just a fun little idea to do while we wait for Ixalan to release in a couple days. Hope you join me at the early access. Would love to see you there. Again, that's going to be November 9th. All right, November 9th is going to be early access. You'll see me streaming, making decks, and breaking necks all day. Until next time, guys. Hope you like this one. Leave a comment. Tell me what you think. I've been Jay Villain, and you've been great. Bye-bye.